Donald Trump was walking slowly across the Chicago Bridge, seemingly lost amidst the chaos and noise of the city. It was a cold, gray afternoon, and the sky above the city was covered with dark clouds. The sounds of traffic, distant conversations, and the city itself felt like a melody ringing in his ears. But as he took another step, his eyes suddenly caught sight of a silhouette. A woman was leaning against the iron railing of the bridge, her disheveled hair and worn-out coat marking her as someone alone. Her face, lined with deep wrinkles, seemed to carry the weight of many years. As soon as he noticed her, he quickened his pace and moved toward her. He knew exactly who she was. Lily Peterson. The same Lily he had met years ago in school, the woman who had once been full of hope and dreams. Now she was a shadow of that young girl.
Lily, is that you?
Lily slowly lifted her head as she heard her name. Her eyes were filled with surprise, but there was something else there, something deeper, like an echo from the past. Her face, weathered and worn by time, had a story to tell. She hesitated for a moment before recognition washed over her. She finally looked up at Donald and nodded.
Yeah, it's me, Donald.
Her voice was soft, tinged with the delicate cracks that time had left behind. She had grown, yes, but so much of her had been shaped by the storms she'd endured. The years had marked her in ways that were impossible to ignore.
What happened to you? How did this happen?
Lily paused for a moment, her eyes drifting towards the bridge. She took in a slow, deep breath as if preparing herself to speak. The cold wind blew softly, rustling her hair. And then, with a quiet resignation, she began to tell her story.
Once upon a time, I had dreams, like everyone else. I had hopes for the future, goals, all the things that make life worth living. But somewhere along the way, everything went wrong.
Donald's gaze softened as he listened intently, his mind racing as he tried to piece together the years between them. Lily's past, so full of ambition, had clearly been overshadowed by something much darker.
I was once in military uniforms. I believed in honor, in duty. I thought that fighting for something greater than myself would bring me peace. But when the war was over, there was nothing left. I came home to an empty house.
Donald's heart clenched at the weight in her voice. Lily was no longer the same person she had been all those years ago. She had carried the scars of her past far longer than she should have, and those scars weren't just physical, they were in her heart, too.
What happened to you?
Lily took another breath, and the silence between them was thick with memories she had long tried to bury. Her story wasn't just one of personal loss, it was one of identity lost and rediscovered.
I married David. We had a life together, or so I thought. But then one day, everything crumbled. He left me for someone else. All the promises, the plans, they meant nothing anymore.
Donald's eyes softened. He could see the raw pain in Lily's face as she spoke. Her loss wasn't just about a broken marriage, it was the loss of trust, of security, and of hope for the future.
Everything I thought I had in my life, my love just disappeared. And for so long, I didn't know how to keep going. I thought I could rebuild myself. But no matter how hard I tried, the pieces just didn't fit.
Donald watched as Lily's eyes wandered over the city, lost in a past that seemed to haunt her every step. The years had not been kind to her. The woman before him had seen things he couldn't even begin to understand.
So you were alone all this time?
Lily nodded slowly. Her shoulders sagged a bit as she spoke. She didn't have to say much for Donald to understand how deeply her solitude had affected her.
Yes. For years, I was alone. In this city, every step I took was a reminder of how lost I was. But something about this bridge, it's peaceful. Sometimes, when I stand here, I think about leaving it all behind. Maybe there's still hope somewhere.
The bridge stood there, as a silent witness to all the pain Lily had endured. Donald stood in silence, feeling the weight of her words. He couldn't help but feel for her, her past, her pain, her brokenness. And yet there was something resilient in her.
And now you're here.
Lily looked up at him, a faint glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. It wasn't much, but it was enough to suggest that maybe, just maybe, she had found something to hold on to again.
Yeah, I'm here. But moving on, it's never easy. But I've started to understand something. Every pain, every loss, it teaches you something. And maybe, just maybe, there's a way to start over.
Donald, his mind racing with these words, realized that Lily wasn't broken. She had been bent, but not destroyed. The woman standing before him had a story, one of pain, yes, but also of resilience.
What's next for you?
Lily's face softened, and she looked at Donald, her expression now full of determination.
I have a dream. I want to start a program for veterans, for young people, for anyone who feels like they've lost their way. A place where they can heal, where they can find hope again.
Donald looked at Lily, really looked at her, and for the first time in a long time he saw someone who had found a purpose again. This wasn't just a dream, it was something she was going to make happen.
Then let's do it. Let's make it happen together.
And so together, Donald and Lily took the first step toward making that dream a reality. No longer would they be defined by their pasts, but by the future they would build together.
As Donald and Lily walked away from the bridge, the city around them felt quieter, yet filled with possibility. The weight of everything that had been said hung in the air, but a sense of hope began to take root. They stopped at a cozy coffee shop, taking a seat by the window, where they could watch the world bustle around them, but for a moment, it felt like they were in their own little world. Lily stirred her coffee slowly, deep in thought. I used to think my past defined me, she said quietly, her gaze distant. But now, I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just one chapter in a much bigger story, one that I still have the power to write. Donald listened intently, his eyes softening. It's never the whole story. The past shapes us, but it doesn't control us. You always have the power to decide who you become. Every day is a chance to start fresh. Lily met his eyes, a spark of clarity lighting up her expression. I'm ready. Let's do this, let's make it happen. With that, they began putting their plan into motion. They set to work on creating a program for veterans, young people, and anyone else who had felt lost or forgotten. They didn't have all the answers yet, but they knew they had something important to offer. They were determined to create a space for healing, for rediscovery, and for new beginnings. The road ahead would be tough, but they were in it together, ready to face whatever came. As the program began to take shape, it quickly grew, attracting people from all walks of life, those who had suffered loss, faced struggles, or felt like they were at a crossroads. Each person who came through their doors found something they hadn't expected, hope. And with every person who left a little lighter, Lily felt more certain that this was what she was meant to do. She had turned her own pain into something meaningful, something that could help others find their way. Months passed, and the program flourished. People who had once felt invisible, forgotten, began to rebuild their lives. Some had lost loved ones, others had lost their sense of direction, but here, they found support, understanding, and a path forward. Lily's own transformation had become a beacon of hope for those who were still searching for theirs. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning, they sat together on the steps outside their building, watching the lights of the city twinkle in the distance. There was a quiet sense of peace between them, as if the weight of the world had been lifted, even if just for a moment. Donald smiled at Lily, a deep pride in his eyes. You did it, Lily. Lily turned to him, a soft smile playing on her lips, her heart full. No, we did it. Together. In that moment, they both knew that the journey they had started together had only just begun. What they had created wasn't just a program, it was a movement. A place where people could heal, rediscover their worth, and find hope again. And as they looked out at the city, they knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one that would continue to inspire and change lives for years to come.